It's time to go.
It is.
And so here we go. Oh, this is called the instance. Instance. There we go. Okay, we got to record it. Yeah. All right, there we go. All right, it's recording. Videos on and recording. Chat room settled. Everyone's good. Okay. It begins in 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to The Instance.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Instance. This is The Instance episode 578. My name is Scott Johnson. I'm joined today by Patrick Beja. Hello, Patrick.
Hello, Scott. How are you doing on this most auspicious of... Is it auspicious? Maybe not.
Is it?
It's just the day. How are you doing on this day, Scott?
I see. Well, okay, let's look at it. It's a week from Halloween. It's also a week from the BlizzCon weekend. It's a week from the end
Which
of time.
is more important, Halloween or BlizzCon?
Normal-
I'd go with BlizzCon, but I'm a dirty European. I don't care all that much about Halloween.
Yeah, you guys don't have the Halloween thing we do here, really.
We do. It's been, manufactured a little bit over the years, and some people celebrate it, but
Yeah. It's a big deal here in the States, and I think especially, I can't say this for sure because I don't really live anywhere else, but I can tell you growing up here, where I grew up in Salt Lake City, it has always been a huge deal. And
no, but for you, because I suspect if you walk around in Salt Lake City and ask people, so which one is more important, Halloween or BlizzCon? I suspect most people would say Halloween.
Yeah,
but for you,
for me, I would say BlizzCon. Yeah, you're right. The difference this year is that this is the first Halloween I'll actually not be on a plane for about 3 or 4 years or however long it's been, and I am weirdly looking forward to it. For one reason, and that is we're going to run around with Van in his little Hobbit costume and do some like old-fashioned trick-or-treating. So that's going to be fun. But on the other hand, I don't get to see my good friend and pal Patrick Beja over there in Anaheim, California. So I'm real bummed about that.
that is true. I mean, there are other people you're not going to see, but they don't matter as much.
No.
That is
understood. Garrett. I mean, Garrett can be seen lots of places, right? Like you can just see him. But no, I'll miss seeing him as well. By the way, he's not here today because he's still traveling with his wife. Lots of crazy October business for him, as it turns out. But we should be able to hear from him next week while he is on the floor of BlizzCon. Anyway, a lot happening, a lot going on. We should probably talk about some of it right now. Okay, you told me before the show. And you know what? Let me preface this. It's important to note this, I think.
Okay.
There is no big news at the moment. Okay, World of Warcraft, it churns away at its pace. We're expecting things at BlizzCon, but there's not a lot happening there. Not a lot of movement with the geopolitical China stuff. It's all just kind of been quiet this week, and that's normal because BlizzCon's coming. What's a little abnormal is they waited till the very last freaking second to release the schedule, and they still haven't released the bands, which is not that important, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Knowing all of that, that means we've had some time to think, and apparently Patrick has had enough time to think that he thinks he has a solution to all of Blizzard's problems, is the way he put it to me. And I am on pins and needles to hear this. So Patrick, tell. What are the solutions to Blizzard's problems?
I may have oversold this to you just a little bit, But I think I've been thinking about this a little bit and thinking, what could Blizzard do that is realistic and that could satisfy me to an extent, that they are. Not that they care. That could just satisfy me that they're not the ultimate evil of the world. That they're a corporation that has interests and that they're doing what they can.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think there's nothing that they could say that would satisfy everyone. So if the solution I'm proposing here makes you think, no, that's crap, then you're one of the people that wouldn't be satisfied. I think it would be satisfactory for at least a number of people who are still not pissed off, but a little bit frustrated by the way things have been happening there.
Sure.
And so that being said,
and that, I don't think, by the way, I don't think that's a crazy notion, that the idea that everybody's a little bit like, how are they going to react during this? What's the scene on the ground going to be? How do they keep the hype meter high without do they address it on stage? Like, this is on everybody's mind. So I think it's a fair assessment to say that that's still a thing, that is still a little trepidatious, despite Bethesda trying to steal all the gaming negative news from out of our feet. It still kind of looms hot and hearty there. So anyway, okay, so now to the solution.
Right. Okay, so if anyone at Blizzard is hearing this, feel free to escalate this to your PR people as a potential avenue to explore. Right. So here we go.
Go.
I do think that they need to say something, as we've discussed on this show and on other shows. They need to say something before the show starts at the opening ceremony, probably, because if they don't, then the entire show is going to be about China. If they do, then, the first half day, everyone's going to talk about what they say, but then they'll be able to put that behind them, at least to an extent, and focus on the many announcements they apparently have in their pockets. Right. So I think what is important to realize is that Blizzard, like any other company, does not want to be in a position of arbitrage and doesn't want to be saying whatever this country does is acceptable and whatever this country does is not. And I don't think that's a completely unreasonable position to be in. We can argue about it and say, in these cases they should say something. But I think a lot of people would understand that they can't be. So if Brack comes out on stage and says this, essentially, we don't think it is Blizzard's role to say or decide that what a country does is acceptable or not, because this is a rabbit hole that is difficult to come out of. For example, even our own country, the US, there are sometimes things that the US does that we, on a personal level, don't agree with. But if Blizzard comes out and says every time something happens, then we don't agree with this, it never ends. And It's not Blizzard's role or any company's, or, they'll speak for themselves, Blizzard's role.
Wow.
Of course, you kind of abscond the fact that in this case, someone said something actively and it's not them going out and commenting on a country's action, but it invited itself in their backyard. But, let's put that aside for a second.
All right.
So this is the setting the stage part and saying, sorry, but for essentially the subtext is we're a company, we have interests, and it's not for us to play the moral thing everywhere. We might do it in games, say there's a dictator, we have to bring him down, like they do all the time with Garrosh and Sylvanas, or we care about equality. They demonstrate this in Overwatch, as we've said before. But real world life things is a little bit more delicate and a little bit more complicated. So this is the first part.
How do they say that, though? How do they say that first part without it going for 20 minutes or without it?
No, I think they say it like this. They say, we believe that it is not Blizzard's role in society to be the arbiter of what a country does. And I think they can talk about the US. They don't even have to talk about China. But I'm pretty sure that people would understand the US sometimes does things that are not very cool, that are not acceptable. I'm sure everyone will realize what these things are in the past a few years. I am not just talking about the Trump administration. There are many things throughout history that are, the recent history that are not great. So if he just says, we don't think it is Blizzard's role to weigh in on what a country does or doesn't do, right?
Got it.
And this is not an easy thing to say. And I think everyone would rather having them not have to say this. And it's a controversial thing to even bring up, but it is necessary at this point to stave off the never-ending story of China, I think. But again, this is just the first part. I think a second part is necessary as well, which is a nod, as we've said before, towards, but we still have opinions. They have to straddle that line.
Mhm.
And I think the way they can push that idea is, say, again, candidly, very with the personal touch, but we still have opinions as individuals. And in the case of this BlizzCon, there are a number of organizations that are present outside the conference grounds, and we would encourage showgoers and media, journalists, to take maybe a little bit of time and go talk to them. And I don't know how much they can push this, but and say, for example, and if the journalists want to dedicate one of the articles they were going to do about BlizzCon to a cause that they are defending, maybe that would be an appropriate thing for them to do, or without passing judgment of what they should or shouldn't do. But essentially telling people it's not Blizzard's role to do this, but encouraging the journalists and even the showgoers to go out and listen to what these organizations have to say and hear their plights and hear their concerns and their message. And in that way, I think they pull back just enough from becoming the decider of morality, which, again, I don't think is fair to push on them, and say, we have people just here that want to speak to you. Maybe you could go do that. And so encourage people to actually go out and talk, because obviously this is not going to be white supremacists, outside of BlizzCon.
Right.
It's going to be people talking about Hong Kong and China and the problems there.
Right.
So I wonder if that wouldn't be and obviously the professional people at Blizzard and, the PR people would phrase this a lot better and more subtly, I'm sure. But I'm wondering if this wouldn't be an acceptable compromise to what the to get out of the situation there is, which is telling people without doing it themselves, but this might be something you want to hear about and talk about.
What do you think? Okay, all of that's good. What if J. Allen Brack, while he delivers this concise thing, right, from stage, what if he's in a Murloc onesie when he does it? Do you think that would improve or diminish the impact of his message?
I wonder.
I would love it.
It depends on which Murloc.
Oh.
It depends which Murloc.
Okay.
I think that would
a dark purple, nasty one. Just a big onesie with the hood on, and the big tentacles hanging off. And he's a big guy, so he would just look like a giant kid in pajamas. I think people would really take that seriously. I think that would really hammer it home.
I don't know.
Not
Maybe.
so much. Not so much. All right, maybe not. Maybe it's a bad idea.
I'm gonna go with no.
Okay.
But,
fair enough. But not a red one. Don't wear a red one. Anyway, hey, that's a terrible joke
maybe
about
a
Red
Winnie
China.
the Pooh Murloc.
Oh yeah, there you go.
That would work.
There you go. Nailed it. All right. Well, that's interesting. I think they do have to have some messaging. Whether or not I still, for me, it's a complete toss-up about what they actually do. Part of me thinks they're just going to go for it and have the lights go down and have a voice go, BlizzCon, welcome to blah, 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 blah. Here's a video. And then they're going to just blah, 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 J. Allen Brack. And then he'll come out and everyone will clap. And there'll be a few free China yells because, of course. And then he'll just lay into the games. I have a feeling they may just not talk about it at all. I feel like they're probably not going to say anything, and I
think it would be Blizzard's into consistent with Blizzard's habit of not touching it. But I don't know. Maybe we're too ingrained into the hardcore community, and we hear about this every week, and maybe it wouldn't be, the larger world wouldn't care.
Yeah.
But I think that would be misreading the mood around because. Also, remember, the people who are going to be making the most noise are the journalists and the hardcore community.
Yeah.
And if they say something like I said, it will be like, well, essentially it's a way of also shifting the responsibility to others to an extent. It's like, listen, to hear about these things, you need media, you need the press. Those are the people who speak out about the things that are happening in Hong Kong. And again, I think that is a fair way of looking at it. So if they do that, they can say, hey, we've said what we had to say about this. Please refer to our earlier statement or whatever. If they don't, every Q&A, as we said last week, Q&A, people jumping on stage, it's going to bring it back up because they don't have an answer for it.
Yeah. And City in the chat room saying something I disagree with. He's saying the topic is largely dead in the community already. If that's true, I think that says awful things about the community. I don't mean that they all should just be enraged constantly 100% of the day, all day, 24/7. What I'm saying is it important or isn't it important? And if it is important, I think people are going to still hold it as important. If it's not important, then what the hell are we doing?
Well, I would, if looking at it from a PR standpoint, if it's already dead, and I think this impression is not completely inaccurate.
Well, we all have the attention span.
You don't want to bring it back up.
Gamers have the attention span of a flea sometimes, right? Like we're just on to the next thing.
In this case, I think people are waiting to see what happens at BlizzCon. It's not dead. It's just people are. If BlizzCon was 6 months from now, yes, but now people are waiting, and if it's not addressed, it will flare back up. And it might be that it flares back up and just, people are overwhelmed by whatever game is announced and it dies down. But that is a dangerous, either bet is dangerous. But I think this one is more dangerous.
Yeah.
Again, because you have the possibility of people jumping on stage and asking questions at Q&A and journalists asking these questions at interviews every single time. So they have to be prepared about this anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, we
but you don't like my idea of them saying, go talk to the people we made comfortable.
No. I actually think that's a good idea. I think that's actually a great idea. And that seemed you're a bit of a peacekeeper dude in your brain. I've always felt like Patrick's that kind of guy anyway. So you thinking outside the box there is pretty good. Like this is what I want from Blizzard, is just to open up and be real about everything. And what I mean by that is, don't get all stiff and cold and stand in the corner and say we've made our statement, moving on, or make it too corporate or whatever. Like, admit that this was bad and admit that this is a problem, and also say maybe one of the things we could do is discuss it more with each other. For example, these groups here, talk to somebody, see why they're so upset. Like, that's a great idea. I don't think he's going to do it. I don't think he'll do it, but I would. That would be a thing if I was in the board meeting. I would recommend.
Yeah. The thing is, there is tens of thousands of people at BlizzCon who are just waiting for an excuse to put this behind them. And you need to be excited about BlizzCon. I want to be excited about BlizzCon.
Yeah.
But I also want them to do something that will enable me morally, and it has to be significant. It can't be, a joke or whatever. It has to be something that I deem like they actually have a thoughtful response about this. And to me, what I laid out is thoughtful and enough. For some other people, they will say no, it's not enough. But I think those people would never be satisfied unless they actively actually condemn China, which what we know they're not going to do.
Well, there's no way they do that. Yeah.
Right. And so for me, if they do this, I can move on a little bit, talk about this at some point as well, and then be excited about Diablo and Overwatch. I'm being very honest here, and those things. But if they say nothing, then I can't. I'm still going to be excited about the games, but there's going to be that thing looming over it, not just for now, not just for BlizzCon, but for months to come. It's going to remain in the background, and it's going to tarnish their image. So that's why I think, even though everything is going to tell them, their habits, their instincts is going to tell them they shouldn't touch it, I still think it would be a mistake. And this, this is the exception. Yeah. This is when you actually should touch it just a little bit.
Just a little bit, just a little touch, just a little poke. Yeah, I agree. The chat room's having a bit of a conversation about the open Q&A thing that was canceled as a sign that they don't want to have a lot of interference. And I just want to make something kind of clear. There's no such thing at BlizzCon as an open Q&A anyway. Everything is screened. All those questions are. I hosted the WoW Q&A last year, and it was 100% questions that we got, we liked, And then we contacted those people that were on the show floor and said, hey, do you want to ask your question on the mic? And then for people at home, we were going to do it from the stage. That's exactly how that stuff goes. Here's the problem. Sometimes people say, yeah, I want to ask a question about how come Jana Proudmoore's hair has a streak in it or whatever, okay? And then they get up to the mic and they do something completely different that they didn't tell you they were going to say. That happened in the Diablo Immortal thing. Somebody submitted a question. It was approved. He got up there to ask it, and instead he said whatever rude thing he said and then walked off. I understand their trepidation about that because people will lie and give you the question wrong, and then they'll get up and have their 15 seconds in the sun and make a big stink about it. So all of that stuff is screened. The only exception to that was last year when I had Metzen sneak in there. That was all just off the cuff. We were just screwing around. There were no real questions there to approve. He gets a pass. But everybody else in that line, from top to bottom, those questions are all pre-screened. And it's been that way forever. Maybe one of the first couple of BlizzCons, maybe not. Things were smaller and it was
I think they implemented this like a couple of years in, or 2 or 3 years in.
Yes.
But yeah, it's been a long time. At least 5 years, I think.
Because because people are trolls and they know they're on camera and they like to be idiots. Like, of course they screen these. So,
well, it's not just for that. I mean, yes, to an extent, but it's also sometimes you just have bad questions or questions that are repeated from previous ones. And it doesn't prevent people from being doing what they want if they really want to. It's just a way of making sure it goes a little bit more smoothly for most of it.
Right. So exactly. So anyway, I think that's the thing not to get hung up on, because yeah, it's significant in that it seems like they're avoiding some yelling and some annoying things happening on their stream. I mean, again, these things I don't think are unreasonable to not want to have happen.
Yeah.
It's side effects of a bigger problem they need to address, but these aren't side effects that they should necessarily have to deal with when they're trying to build a platform. They've sold a lot of copies of the virtual ticket. Those people have an expectation for what they're going to get, and what they're going to get isn't supposed to be a bunch of yelling on a mic and people getting carted away and all that sort of thing. Like, this isn't the floor of the Senate. This is a Blizzard event. I understand why they would want to have that stuff controlled.
Yeah, obviously, yes.
Yeah, and they don't owe anybody anything beyond that. Like, the live Q&A is not a chance. Okay, Patrick, maybe this is a solution. Why not? Why not? I mean, they're not going to, and they haven't yet. But they could have put on the schedule a Q&A about this issue. They could have had a small stage dedicated to, hey, we're going to discuss some of this stuff. And I know that that's never going to happen, and it's way too off the cuff, and it's not. Well, I know that goes against everything we just said about how tight-lipped Blizzard gets about everything.
It's not even that. It's that if they do that, they put themselves in a position to decide and pass moral judgment on things, which is exactly what they want to avoid to do, publicly, officially.
Yeah, I wish they could do things like that, though. Like, that would give me all kinds of heart. I'd be all right, cool, get up there and maybe some of your answers, I don't know the answer to that. It's
honestly,
too big, it's too complicated.
I don't want them to discuss it. If they would go that far, I would just want them to put out a statement saying, we believe that the actions of the Chinese government in the region of Hong Kong run counter to the values of the American values that we hold dear, and we think they are dangerous for human rights. And that's it. Just if you want to condemn it, do it in a statement, and you don't need a discussion, right?
Yeah.
So and then they take the gamble and they risk their business in China, which in some version of this timeline they could do, but
right.
I don't think a discussion is like what is there to discuss?
I mean, there really isn't. It's just sort of a like you're gonna have the questions are gonna be things
unless you want to go over the history of China and Hong Kong and the UK and the British Empire and the time, all of that, but that's not.
Yeah, if you want to have a complete history lesson up there, that's different, but they're not going to do that. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Here's the important thing, though. We're going to put all the politics aside now. We're going to make a couple of predictions here. Okay. They released the schedule, as you know, and on that schedule, right after the opening ceremony, which is listed from 2 p.m. to 1 p.m. Mountain, I guess, So, I'm sorry, 12 to 1, not 2. So that's 10 a.m. is when it starts over there, local time. Right after that, there are 4 panels listed, excuse me, as coming soon panels. Okay, about an hour each, and it doesn't say what they're for. Whereas the rest of the schedule's got things like Life at Blizzard, Career and Culture, Heroes of the Storm update, quarter century of Warcraft audio, blah blah blah. But these are empty. They don't have anything in them, presumably because they're going to talk about stuff that hasn't been announced yet. A lot of people would slot 3 of those as being Warcraft expansion, Diablo 4, and whatever this possible Overwatch sequel / PvE focused thing, whatever it is. There's a lot of weird info about that thing, but whatever that is, let's say those are the 3 things. In my opinion, that is a full plate of BlizzCon announcements. What the hell is that 4th panel for? Do you have any guesses?
So,
yeah,
there are actually 6 coming soon slots over the 2 days.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's not just 4. And it might be that some of those announcements require 2 additional slots, which could make sense. Maybe not all of them. So we're still left with 3 announcements we're getting to be reasonably sure about, the 3 you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe 1 or even 2 others. Which, to answer your question, I think Diablo 4, Overwatch 2, WoW expansion.
That's enough. Can it possibly be anything else? Because if it's a new IP, there's no way there's time for that.
No. I think it's probably gonna be Diablo 2 remaster.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was a theory. John had that theory on Core as well. Like maybe we'll end up with a remaster for Diablo 2, which would be a thing you'd want to announce around your Diablo 4 announcement, because the likelihood of you getting Diablo 4 or whatever it's called before 2's remaster is unlikely. You probably get the remaster first, timing wise. Like there's a lot of reasons that makes sense. I hadn't considered that, but a whole panel for that seems kind of intense to me. I don't know why. Yeah, it just does.
A little bit, but it's possible.
Yeah.
And they could have, I think they have a panel called The Future of WoW or something like that. So maybe one of those would be dedicated to the expansion and they haven't revealed it. 1 for Diablo 2 remaster, and then 2 per entirely new game announcement, Diablo 4 and Overwatch PvE, Overwatch 2. Maybe they have, 1 deep dive and 1 the features or presentation or whatever, because if they have all this, they're only going to be able to spend 10 minutes or 5 minutes per game at the opening ceremony.
Sure. And someone in the chat makes a point that I think is good to think about, which is sometimes there's, if an announcement's big enough, you may have 2 panels that are dedicated entirely to two aspects of whatever game that is. It could be, here's the story and all the lore, and then the next panel, here's the gameplay. Like it very well could be that, and Diablo 4 could fit that thing. So who knows? But I'm really curious about that, because that is unusual. It's an unusual looking stretch for BlizzCon if you look at the timeline there compared to other years.
Yeah, definitely. And it could be that there is another new project which could be a mobile game.
Yeah.
They have been working on many of those.
But don't you think that would be nuts? Like, in the light of Immortal, though, like them dedicating, well, I don't know. That's not fair to say. Maybe there is room for a 4th if it is a smaller mobile project. Like, that would make sense.
I think so. Yeah. I think, especially if you have all of this, no one can accuse Blizzard of not caring about the PC gamer with all of this. But if I don't know, it seems they might be shying away from doing anything mobile this year. But I wouldn't hold it against them at all. I think if they have, that's what we were saying last year. Announce Diablo Immortal if you want, but give something to the PC gamers as well, and everything would have been fine. Which this year they could do that, and I think it would be fine, and the people who would be excited about the mobile thing would be, and the people who are excited about the PC things would be. So what happened last year wasn't a universal incident that would happen anytime they mention anything mobile.
Right. Right.
So if that's the takeaway they had, I think it would be too bad.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting because if they have a new IP to launch that isn't mobile, let's say they got a new mainline IP in the vein of that thing they just canceled, the StarCraft Battlefield sort of game. I don't think that ever had a title, but whatever it was called. If they had something of that level, that was like a big next generation mainline IP in the way that Overwatch was in 2014 when they announced it, that feels like a thing they'd save for its own BlizzCon and make it the prime thing, which would sound like a 2020 BlizzCon to me. So if I was Blizzard and if I had something like that in the wings, this year your most important job is to make Diablo a big frickin' middle of the camera deal. It's got to be a huge deal. Then and I think that's your number one. Actually, this is the order I would do it in. I agree with John Jagger, who had this feeling last night, and I agree with it. Here's your order. You do WoW expansion first. This is your announcement order. So WoW expansion, big cinematic, get all excited, lots of teasers about what it's going to be, blah blah blah. Your middle announcement is whatever this Overwatch thing is, because I'm still not convinced it's like a full sequel. There's too much writing on the pro scene on the original game for them to just switch gears and say, well, here's a whole new competitive game. I think there's more to it, and I don't know what the answer is yet. But I think that's your second thing. Go ahead.
You're talking about Overwatch?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's just going to be Overwatch 2 with PvE elements, and then it integrates Overwatch 1, and Overwatch 1 continues as it's been before. And you can buy, and maybe even Overwatch 1 goes free to play.
Yeah. That's possible. That's a good point. But anyway, so I think that's second, though. And then I think the third big announcement, third and final, basically, not final, because there's always like, let's give Hearthstone a minute. And, there's other little things that'll happen on the stage. But I think your big final finale announcement will end up being Diablo 4. And I'm still pretty convinced that Immortal's like playable same day, because they're going to say, and you can play Immortal today. I mean, I still feel like there's goodwill to do that, even though everyone was mad about it last year. I think actually having it will be a good deal. And I think that anything like a brand new giant IP, you wait till 2020, because in 2020, your new WoW expansion is out or coming out. Your Diablo 4 is just in the works and happening and being built, but it's not out yet. That's probably 2021 or 2022. And your Overwatch thing is either out or coming out. Like, you've kind of spent all your schmoo in 2019, so you wait till 2020 for your big new IP. So I'm saying if there is a new IP in the wings, that's how they do it. They don't do this next weekend. They hold that thing for another year. Because I'll tell you what, if it's true that a WoW expansion, which in its own right is a big deal, and by the way, they're bread and butter. Think about it. None of these games are done that we're talking about. Diablo 4, Overwatch 2, those are not games that are being currently made. Or, excuse me, they're not games that are being currently sold. And outside of Warcraft 3 Reforged and a possible remastered Diablo 2, neither of those are revenue generators other than some pre-orders for Warcraft 3. Their money that is being churned out of that company comes from WoW subscriptions. That's where it's at. And services related to it. So that's already a huge deal.
And Hearthstone are bringing in a decent amount of money as well.
I mean, they do okay, but I don't think they're bringing in what they need to. Like, the cash cow is still Warcraft. I have to think that, revenue-wise. What else is? Like, there's no way that Hearthstone cards are competing with WoW money. In fact, they don't even put that revenue individually anymore. They lump it all together outside of World of Warcraft, which is kind of telling. It's like how Apple puts watches and peripherals together, because nobody wants to admit that those numbers aren't amazing. So anyway, but my point is, that is a full plate of content on day one. Fourth IP, you're going to wait a year. Or Patrick's theory that it's mobile, you could squeeze that in. If it's a mobile thing, you could probably pull it off.
I'm guessing mobile won't be a new IP anyway. It's going to be something that has to do with existing IPs.
Yeah. Hopefully StarCraft, because they keep leaving that open, and they need to make a StarCraft thing, in my opinion. Something that isn't an RTS. Let's get that world going. It sits there just begging to have more done in it. what the hell are you guys doing? All right. Well, anyway, that's our prediction about the that stuff there. There's still no bands being announced, which is weird. You have any guesses? Who do you think might play? As it looks like there's three entertainment stages, so I think they're doing the 3-band thing again. So who would you hire for your?
I don't think there's going to be an actual well-known band.
You don't think so?
They would have announced already, right?
Well, I mean, they usually announce anything by now. Like, this is way late, so I don't think it's going to be. We're not getting like Metallica level anymore. I think they peaked there, but who was it the other? John the other day said he thinks it'll be 21 Pilots, and then a couple of YouTubers nobody's heard of or something like that. And
I think it might be, maybe mid-level people like Jonathan Colton, geek type artists.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Honestly, I'll be very honest there. Even when they were massive bands, I never went to see them. So it's not why I go to BlizzCon. And usually by the time that part rolls in, I am so exhausted. I've been running around trying not to miss anything, recording 15 different shows. I usually go up to the guild hall from AIE, sit down, chat with cool people, and just relax and not care about the concert.
Yeah, I do the same thing. Foo Fighters was my big exception because I love those guys. But everything else, I was just like, I can't be bothered. I was like, I think, in fact, with you, in 2013, was it? You were still in PR, and you got us to fast jump in a line to play Heroes of the Storm that year because it got announced that year. And so I don't remember who the band was, but I remember you carting us down to the main floor, getting us in line. We were able to bump ahead of everybody. This is very privileged
Please
information.
say that again. Please, yeah.
Let me keep telling people how you helped us cheat. Well, we had press passes. You're supposed to be able to jump in line anyway. But anyway.
Yes, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It was planned like that. It's not like I, paid or murdered someone to have you. That's how it's supposed to work with people who have press passes.
They never found the body. They never found the body is what we're saying. But anyway, so we get in there and we're all playing that thing, and I remember the muffled sound of, Blink-182 or whoever it was just off the other direction, just going like the concert was going, and I'm like, nope, this is where I would rather be, playing a video game with my friends and not sitting in a sweaty mosh pit trying to decide if I like Linkin Park or not. So anyway, there's that.
And it was so fun as well. I remember, I think I played Arthas.
Yeah, you were Arthas.
And I was like,
yep.
I think so. And it was,
I was Jim Raynor, I believe. Or Tychus. I might have been Tychus. It's a bad time. All right. So bands, who cares? But that's still coming. We'll probably find out in the next day or so. I know a lot of people like that, so I hope that works out. Do you feel like thanking Fallout 76 for taking a little heat off of Blizzard this week? It feels like they were, instrumental in making people focus on something else, another shiny object.
For a minute. I was debating. I was having insomnia yesterday, and I came across this, and I was thinking, I couldn't find a clever way of putting it, but I wanted to tweet something about, wow, Bethesda is really trying their best to top Blizzard. The only thing they could do now to make it better would be to ban someone from Hong Kong or something, like if the game but yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's horrible for Bethesda because it's a game. And I'm sure, everyone has horror stories with games, but this is a game that was one of the most broken at launch, that had huge problems for months. And now that it's finally getting to a place, a few months ago, it was getting to a place where people who stuck with it were kind of happy about it.
Yeah, they were tempting a few of us to go check it out. We were I had a feeling of ooh, that sounds like what they've added is nice. Maybe I'll go back to that and see if they didn't completely ruin the beloved franchise. And then this happens.
Not only is the update broken to it eats your loot to some extent, but also to get access to private servers, you have to pay a monthly subscription.
$12 a month, $12.99 a month.
Yeah,
or $100
it's not like
a year.
They're doing it $4 or $7, $12.99, and maybe it's only for the people who want to host. I guess it's possible, but
Well,
Wow,
if you want the other
that is-
benefits like the unending inventory and the whatever other reasons you do it, it's just ridiculously priced. It's it's not somebody losing their freedom and human rights in China level of anything, but it's a pretty dumb thing, and also comes out the week when like they're one of the best ones of those kinds of games is launching this week with Outer Worlds. I started playing it. It's freaking fantastic. Obsidian made Fallout New Vegas for Bethesda. This is a lot like that, which is a really good thing in my mind because I loved New Vegas, one of my favorite games of all time. And it's very good. So to have all this happen during a week when kind of a brand new IP from a very good developer is kind of kicking dirt in your normal space that you own, it's a little bit dangerous. Like, I don't know, man. Just looks bad, feels bad.
It's just every aspect of this story. Obviously, as you said, it's from a gaming perspective, not from a human rights perspective.
Right.
But in that context, every aspect of this story is terrible. The
Stupid.
game was bad at launch. People stuck with it. Now they're being asked to pay. And when they do, not only are they not getting what they were promised, meaning some of the instances are recycled and they're not truly private, and the loot scrap box thing is apparently making your loot disappear, which is so
That's
in
bad.
certain conditions. But
That's bad.
anyway, I'm sure they're gonna fix it, but it's just yeah.
Here's a little bit of conspiracy for you. Maybe Blizzard contacted on behalf of the Chinese government,
Hello, China.
and they said, "Hey," that's Mike Morheim, by the way.
Hello, China.
It's a long time ago. Anyway, they said, "Hey, why don't you throw us a bone here and screw something up so we can have a little bit of heat off of us before BlizzCon?" And they said, "Okay, we'll do that for you." And a little exchange.
I am
of,
certain that is what happened. Not only that, but also that it's gonna work. Of course, everyone's forgotten about the China thing,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
They've
no, you're
forgotten.
right.
What's
By now, no one's even thinking about it. And now I take off my tinfoil hat. All right. What else?
You didn't say the band thing. You didn't.
Oh, did
say
I
what
predict?
you
Oh, I
wanted.
think it's if it's going to be a big band, I'd call something like John kept saying 21 Pilots. I think that's actually a good call. If they have a returning band, I think it could possibly be that Jack Black thing. I can't think of the name.
Tenacious D.
Tenacious D. That was a huge hit, and it just seems like a thing you could get twice. But if not that, I'll bet someone's a popular YouTube music person. I'll bet someone else is maybe another DJ type, the way they got out of Christian Nairn last year. And then the third would have to be Train Level, and I don't know who that would be.
Well, it's definitely weird that they haven't announced it yet. Not weird, but unusual.
It's unusual, yeah, to go this late. So I don't know what they're going to do. For context, by the way, this thing,
Hello, China.
that's when he was welcoming the Chinese market to Diablo 3. So this is years ago. And he has a whole thing where he just is talking about how great it is to have China playing Diablo 3. It means nothing. I'm just playing it because, China's in the news. We're bringing it up to China all the time. Right, Patrick?
Yeah, and I mean, it is great on the face of it to have Chinese players be able to play all of those cool games.
Yeah, it was. I mean, look, Chinese players, nothing wrong with them. You guys are fine. Your government's a little weird, but players are great. All right, here's the final thing I want to talk about before we look at what else is going on around Blizzard. The new unit art for Warcraft 3 Remastered has been kind of releasing over the last few weeks. So new models for Thrall and Jaina and Illidan and pre-Curse Sylvanas and all that stuff. And I think they look amazing. I think these things look incredible. They're much more detailed and just really rad looking, textured, detailed little characters that we know and love from the Warcraft universe. And I went online and said, hey, I think these are looking awesome. What do other people think? And a bunch of people really don't like them and think that the WoW incarnation is way better. And I feel like I'm in crazy land because they're still what's the word? They're still stylized. They're still, these aren't like ultra realistic. They're just so much more detailed. I'm getting textures they would never have in World of Warcraft. And I can't believe it's even in an RTS. Like, the detail is crazy. So I don't know if you've seen a bunch of these, But if you have, what do you have an opinion? Do you think I'm crazy? Do these not look cool? Am I just nuts? Because they look great.
They look pretty cool. I don't know why people don't like them. I've seen a few, but they seem maybe a little bit plasticky. There's some lighting on there that seems a bit too, I don't know, artificial.
Maybe
but,
like little statues or something. I mean, in movement, maybe we'll change our minds, but they do look kind of like statues, I guess. You know.
Yeah, a little bit, exactly. But I think they look. It's hard to tell because we don't see them full screen or anything like that. But they seem very detailed. They seem. I mean, I guess people agree that they feel detailed, but maybe they think the style is not what they like. I think they look really good.
Yeah, I do too. Finally, someone agrees with me because I thought I was going
and
crazy.
They are. The thing is, they are a little bit more Warcraft-y. Maybe it's because I knew the game back then, and I know the art is a little bit different in the RTS than it is in the game. And maybe that's what's jarring to some people. The art style, I guess the proportions are a little bit more normal, a little bit less comic-y, even though they still are somewhat comic-y. But no, I think they're fine. They're different, but I really like. I think they're appropriate for a remake of that game.
Yeah, I do too. Maybe we could get we should get Liam to record "I Am My Somewhat Pixelated Scars," but he'd have to say "somewhat pixelated." You have to say that.
Well, I don't know. This all looks so well designed. I don't think it's pixelated at all.
No, these look amazing. I just mean like the see, in my opinion, the Warcraft stuff in WoW looks great for what it is. They've been able to take this engine and sort of make it last forever, and everything still looks pretty good. I was looking at Rexar the other day and going, "Oh man, Rexar, you still look great, dude. You look great in this video game." But they're not that detailed, They're pretty low res. They're pretty cartooned out for reasons, lots of reasons. One is obviously that's the kind of stylization they aim for, but secondly, the engine just isn't meant for super detailed, high resolution, highly lit sort of character models. So,
I mean, these are so detailed. It's crazy how detailed they are. The point is not to bring in the characters from WoW and put them in the game. The point is to remaster Warcraft 3. And I mean, maybe in Warcraft 3 they didn't quite look like that. It's kind of like they tried to adapt what they looked like in the cinematics of Warcraft 3, which it looks 1,000 times better than the WoW models. Maybe not 1,000 times, but it's significantly higher detail than the WoW models, which is a little bit crazy to think about.
It is pretty crazy. Anyway, we'll see what that looks like as we get closer to it. We don't know when that's being released. There's still no release date. I still have a feeling they say that at BlizzCon it's out. We'll see. I think both that and Immortal would go a long way to make people happy if they could play both those games the day or the weekend of BlizzCon. That's about the only prediction I have that I really don't have any basis for it. I just feel like it would be a good idea,
Yeah, it seems that's not going to be the case.
Probably not. All right. Now this. All right, a quick look around the rest of the Blizzard games. I mean, like I said, there's not a lot happening in WoW other than what we already know. It's the quiet before the con. It's just the way that stuff goes. But in Overwatch, we do know this. There's no new hero being announced at the convention, which I think makes sense, because if you're going to do this, whatever 2 is, you'd make room for that. And you wouldn't worry too much about making sure you have a new hero to show off for regular old Overwatch, right? Like you just get out there and show the new thing, and that'll be good enough.
And maybe there will be new heroes in Overwatch 2, whatever it ends up being called.
Yeah.
But actually, on the Overwatch Central YouTube channel, Miska went ahead and did a really well done recap of everything that's leading us to believe that Overwatch 2 is coming and what it could be. And there's someone from the team called, I think it's Tim Ford. I remember that name because I remember thinking about Tom Ford and that it wasn't Tom Ford. But I think, anyway.
Wait, Tom Ford, is that the dude from this is not the Canadian, the cocaine snorting Canadian governor, was it? Or whatever he was?
Oh, Well, no, Tom Ford is a clothes designer.
Oh, okay,
So
never mind.
slightly different.
I'm thinking of
thing.
somebody else. Yeah,
It's a brand.
yeah.
But yeah, he basically was very focused on PvE things. And as they were saying, well, if we were to make something more substantial for Overwatch PvE, then it would need to be a lot bigger than what we do for the missions and stuff like that. And he was kind of taking lead on this, and then he disappeared. And anyway, I think he's gonna be the one to come out and probably along with Jeff Kaplan, he seems like he could be the lead on that, and it would be a PvE thing. Which, getting back to your question, no new hero for Overwatch,
Right.
but maybe they're keeping that in Overwatch 2, the context of Overwatch 2, and then they'll say, and there will be this character from Overwatch 2 at some point that might come to Overwatch. So,
Totally possible. Yeah.
yes and no.
I could see that. Hearthstone, we have no idea. Probably an expansion. They always do something there. Talk about a bunch of new
Well,
stuff.
there's the full year reveal, isn't it, at BlizzCon that they sometimes preview
Sometimes. Yeah.
the full coming year?
Yeah. Sometimes.
Like
I mean,
the
not
year of the chicken or something.
right. And they'll probably they usually show off like a new mechanic, like a new what do they call it? A new what do they call those?
A new keyword,
Keyword.
a couple of keywords.
Yeah. So they may do that as well. I always find those.
That's when they announce an expansion.
I wish I was more into Hearthstone because those are my least favorite parts to watch. I wish I was more into it, but whatever. Heroes of the Storm, I thought would have at least something to say there, but I think they have shown what they're going to do, and they're not going to do it on stage, and that is, other than their own little panel, but Deathwing is coming. He's literally happening. He's in the game as of, well, he's not in there yet, but he will be in the PTR soon and released, they say, right after BlizzCon. Or whenever their next patch is after BlizzCon. And he looks rad, like full on, always in dragon form. There's no like, I'm in man
He's
form.
a full actual dragon.
Yes. And he does
Like,
some
he is-
crazy stuff. He cannot be stopped, slowed, like all the things you usually do to hinder another player and kind of create lockdown. He cannot, none of that stuff affects him. But he can also not be healed. He cannot be support buffed in any way either. So he's just kind of like this unstoppable monster, but that also does not benefit from any other sort of support abilities. It sounds really interesting. It's a little bit of a, Cho'Gall style goof.
It's a bit gimmicky.
Yeah, but it seems like a cool gimmick, and he's really rad looking. Like he's animated really well. He's never in the Nexus. He just comes flying down and lands. One of his ultimates just burns everything. He's just a badass. So it's everything you'd hope from a cataclysmic giant dragon in Heroes of the Storm. And I'm a little surprised. I thought it was going to be an event, and it would just be sort of have something to do with him as the event, but not a character. Like I had all kinds of ideas that were wrong. But it looks interesting. The game keeps, trucking along, even though it's been sort of relegated to the back hall. It's still good, still fun. Still a fine game, in my opinion. And then Diablo 3, nothing. StarCraft, nothing. I hope there's StarCraft stuff at BlizzCon. I really do. I do.
Maybe a new game.
Well, I don't want RTS. I want, that's why, as excited as I am for the look of Warcraft 3 Reforged, I'm zero excited to play it because I don't want to play an RTS right now. It's just not in the mood at all. Like, zero interest.
2 months ago, you were saying, "Yeah, RTSs, they're awesome."
No, I didn't. When did I do that? I never did that.
I thought that's what you said when we were talking about StarCraft.
That might have been
its potential
That
comeback.
could have been Garrett or something.
Maybe I misremember.
Because it's been years since I've really cared about an RTS, and the last one I really cared about was StarCraft 2, but just not in the mood. I don't want to do a bunch of units and go over a hill and hope I have enough stuff to kill a thing. I'm just not into it right now. That's what it was. Garrett wants another StarCraft RTS. He keeps bringing that up. So
Maybe it's Garrett.
Yeah, and he wants that. I don't want that. I want turn-based strategy, which I do love, or some kind of, tactics game or a shooter or anything, squad shooter, whatever. All of that would be good for me in the StarCraft universe. We'll see if we get it.
But it's, I'm looking at the schedule, and there's one Heroes panel for the entirety of BlizzCon.
Yeah.
one StarCraft panel,
Yep.
one Diablo panel,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. Everything essentially one Hearthstone. Yeah, I said Hearthstone. Everything is WoW. There's a ton of WoW stuff, including esports, but not only.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a World of Warcraft update. There's a Q&A, a bunch of stuff, but there's a very little of the other games. I'm
Mhm.
just noticing now as I'm looking at it. There's like Heroes of the Storm update, Hearthstone update, maybe a couple of art and that kind of thing for Overwatch. But everything else is WoW, and those new things we don't know what they are.
Yeah, emphasis on new WoW is going to always be a thing. I'm telling you, that's where all the revenue is. So you'd be dumb not to. But also,
And they also have, by the way,
Yeah.
an inclusion nexus. Did you see this? They
No.
have like an actual. It's a small stage, I'm sure, but they have like a bunch of small panels where they're going to be talking about issues related to inclusion.
oh,
which
I think they did that last year, but maybe they're expanding it. I thought they did.
I don't think they. Oh, did they already have a stage dedicated?
I thought
to
they
it?
did, but maybe it was just kind of a milling
Maybe.
space, maybe a place to just kind of mill around and meet people. I don't know. Now that you say that,
There
I'm not
was
sure.
that, yeah, and there was the that I remember when I was there a couple of years ago. Last year I wasn't there, so maybe there was, but I don't remember. But yeah. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention it because it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. Well, we'll see how that all goes. Now this.
Hear ye, hear ye.
Why, it's the town crier.
Time for the town crier, who was up till 4 this morning playing Modern Warfare.
Fortnite Chapter 2.
No.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Modern Warfare came out last night, and he and a bunch of his friends were up playing multiplayer all night long.
I played an hour of the campaign.
Yeah, what'd you think? You like it?
It is Call of Duty.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean,
Not a lot of-
it's
yeah.
pretty though, right? Like better looking.
Very pretty. At least for the first hour, maybe it changes. There are some shocking moments which are not very well put in context.
Oh, okay.
It's just shocking moments like terrorist attacks and stuff like that just happen.
Was it Modern Warfare 1 or 2 that had the thing at the airport where you just mowed down all those innocent people? What was that one? Where you could skip
The
it
first
if you wanted.
one, I believe.
Was it?
And
Okay.
it was shocking, but it was one moment which was kind of the one of the peaks of tensions in the game, and it was handled, I think, better than in this one. Again, I've only played an hour, but for example, there's this crazy terrorist attack at some point, and sometimes you have units that are suicide bombers.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them, and if they run to you and you shoot them, they explode, and there's a text that appears: you have been killed by a suicide bomber. Aim for the head, with a little icon that shows suicide bomber attention in comic form.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the sound of me face palming.
Yeah.
It's not very not appropriate, but it's not super done in a sensitive manner.
I get
It's not
it.
quite press X to mourn, but
Press
yeah.
X to
Anyway.
mourn. Yeah, I don't know if I'm
But maybe
playing
it's
that.
different after that. It's only the first hour, and it is high quality gameplay and all of that.
Yeah, well, it's supposed to be pretty polished this time around. I hope they do okay with it, just because I want to see Activision do well enough that they don't have to bleed Blizzard every time there's a problem. That'd be good. Hey, a quick email here from Ethan. He sent an email to theinstance@gmail.com. That's how you do it, folks. And he says this: Hi, guys. What's kept you guys from getting burnt out on WoW after all these years? I find myself ending up taking a 2 or 3 year hiatus more often than not, says Ethan. I mean, I just went from a 3-month hiatus to a hardcore 2-month play to a bit of a hiatus since the China stuff dropped because I just am annoyed. Not telling anyone else how to play or how to feel. It just annoyed me, so I kind of didn't feel like playing it. And I've been cheating on WoW with ESO a little bit. I'll swing back around. It always happens. But those little ones are, pretty common, I think, for most players. But going 2-3 years in between, I mean, that's fine. I'm sure there are plenty of people who've done that as well. But Patrick, do you feel like? It's been a while since you've kind of hardcored in there. How do you handle that sort of the feeling that, wow, I've seen all this before, I really don't want to play right now?
I think it's fine. There was a time maybe 10 years ago where WoW was the game that we would all play.
Yeah.
And that was great. That was our thing. But times change, things change. There are a lot more awesome games these days, and the way I approach it now is there are a little bit like you. There are moments or even long periods. For Legion, I was playing not nonstop, but almost nonstop, when I will play a lot. And there are moments where I don't feel like playing, and I don't try to force myself to want to play. I just go out and enjoy other things, which other things are often Overwatch for me because I love that game. But
Yeah.
um,
It's not a job.
yeah,
right?
it's not.
Yeah.
I think it's not necessary to have that mindset of thinking I need to keep myself from being burnt out. Like I if you don't feel like playing, then you stop playing. It's fine. You'll get back to it probably because WoW is always has some most awesome moments, but you don't have to feel like you have to play, because I think that is to an extent a little bit unhealthy, and we did this for a long time, so I'm not accusing anyone, but also you miss out on some other things.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this. I just thought of a scheme that is really smart and could get you a lot of gold in the game for very little money. So here I'm going to share my idea with the world. How to get a lot of gold for very little money during a time where there was like a bunch of people boycotting and canceling their accounts. Here's what you do. You find out who those people are, and you say, dude, for $25, I'll transfer your character to my realm, and then you'll mail me your 300,000 gold or whatever it is you have. Let's say you got 1 million gold. You'll send me your 1 million gold, and then go delete your character. You still leave WoW. You're still done. You still dusted your feet, and I got 1 million gold for $25. Pretty good, Patrick. Not bad, and it's not illegal. That's totally that's not against the terms of service. You can just go do that, right?
what you mean, people who want to stop playing forever and then you get their money?
Yeah, I pay the $25 to transfer their character. They send me all their gold. They leave
and
the
they
game.
wait, why would they do that? They want to keep the character just in case they want to come back.
No. I'm saying before you delete your account forever, you give me all your character's gold, and then you go delete.
But why
your
not
account.
why pay for the transfer? Why don't you just get the gold?
Oh, well, no, I would get the gold because I paid for their transfer. Do you see what I'm saying? That's the deal I made.
Oh, because if they're on a different server, you mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean. If they're on the same server, just give me your gold if you're here.
Okay.
It's probably against the TOS, but think about it for a second. You could innocently do this where you're like, oh, I want to pay for my friend to come play over here. Oh, my friend is mad at WoW. He's leaving now. Oh, I guess he'll leave me his gold. Transaction complete. There's nothing TOS against that. I mean, maybe the spirit of it a little bit.
I think that's fine. I think that's absolutely fine. But you're presenting it like it's some sort of genius idea.
It's not.
I'm not. I mean, it's just like, give me your gold.
Yeah, it's just give me your gold. The only
essentially, this is how you made your initial fortune, Scott.
Yeah.
Right?
And well, I made my first. The first time I got a ton of gold, which I think at the time was 100,000 gold. Somebody left the server, was leaving WoW forever, and was going to delete everything. And he says, "Before I go, here's my cash."
Right. So that's you're just describing what happened to you.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, I'm just saying, $25 for 1 million gold is a pretty good deal, and a lot of people left.
Or imagine if that person has 5 million gold.
Whoa,
that's a 5-time better deal.
Wow, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, somebody who really plays the auction house, I could really get them, and they're so mad. You're so mad at Blizzard. Give me your money. Give me your gold. All right. Thanks, Ethan, for your email. That was great to hear from you. Theinstance@gmail.com. You can also leave us a voicemail at 801-471-0462. 2. And that's going to do it for the show. Patrick, before we go, a lot of people know this already, but for those who don't, you've got a little website called FrenchSpin.tv. No, FrenchSpin.com. There's no TV.
Mm-hmm. TV is you.
I have a TV.
Used to be you.
Well, I don't know what I have. I have .com, but I also the TV goes to the Twitch channel. But anyway, in your case, it's FrenchSpin.com, and it's full of podcasts that aren't this. So tell people more about it and what they could hear this week.
Right. There are 2 podcasts you could go check out. The first one is Pixels, where we talk about games, and you can go check that out because it's always fun to talk about games, including games that are not published or developed by Blizzard. Some of them are pretty fun, so go check that out. And the other show is called The Phileas Club, and we talk about stuff that happens in the world, including Brexit. For example, if you want to hear the opinion of a Scotsman, an Irishman, and an Englishman, one of them being for Brexit, you can go check out that episode. It's a special from a few weeks ago, and you will find it indeed at FrenchSpin.com.
Yeah, and for those, there's somebody who just asked, his Pixels is English. That's an English show. So
yes,
it's not like you got it.
I also have some French shows, which are at FrenchSpin.fr.
Right.
One about tech and one about gaming.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Got both languages covered over there at FrenchSpin.com or FrenchSpin.fr, which stands for effing Richard. I don't know.
I was going to say something and then I did.
Oh, good. I'm glad you didn't.
Started with Re, but not Sean.
Oh, I'm really glad you didn't. Super.
Yeah,
glad
I know.
I
I shouldn't, and I didn't. So
oh man, that's awesome. But the more we talk about it, it's almost like you did. So we're going to stop talking about it now, and we're going to move on. There's lots of cool stuff happening over at frogpants.com as well. This show, of course, can be found at the instance.com or .net rather. We have a .net account. That's right, you guys. .net. Enjoy. So go check that out. Theinstance.net. All our old shows are there. All the stuff you need. Garrett Art is Garrett's Twitter account. He's not here this week, but he'll be back soon. Not Patrick. I'm at Scott Johnson. Instant show for the show over there on Twitter. And more shows like this at frogpants.com. See you guys at BlizzCon. Have a fantastic week. Be good. This show is part of the Frog Pants Network.
Frog Pants Network.
Get more shows like this at frogpants.com.